Hey everyone, welcome back to our place. We are excited to continue our conversation around Social Security with Anjel Burgess. She walked us through all of the amazing disability programs. So go check that interview out if you haven't. Probably a good thing to watch before you watch this one. So thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it. So we talked about the buckets of Social Security last time, the different programs, and now we are going to talk about qualifying, which cannot be that easy either. Because like we said, nothing's easy. um, so talk to us about like main key things as far as qualifying for Social Security disability.
Okay. So regardless as to the program
Yep.
that you are applying for, you have to meet the definition of disability.
Mm-hmm.
And so Social Security breaks things up into benefits for children who are under the age of 18 versus benefits for adults aged 18 and older.
Okay.
So I'll start off talking about children. Because as you can imagine, the requirements for children are completely different than the
Yep.
requirements for adults. And so for children, what Social Security is looking to see primarily is you have to establish that your child has what they call a medically determinable impairment.
Okay.
So basically, they have a medical condition that causes more than just kind of a minor impact on their lives. So they're looking for a condition that for a child affects them in multiple areas. So when they look at a child and they look at a child's functioning, they actually break it up into 6 areas, and they call them 6 domains of functioning.
Okay.
So what they will do is they will look at your child and they will determine how much your child's disability or their condition impacts them in each of these areas of functioning. So the areas are how does a child acquire and use information? How do they attend to and complete tasks? How they interact with other people?
Mm-hmm.
How they move around and like manipulate objects and
Yep.
things? How they care for themselves, and then just their general physical health and well-being. So those are the 6 domains of functioning.
So question about that
Yes.
quickly. If somebody has been through a psychiatric evaluation and has a diagnosis, they probably have looked at those things already. Will Social Security, so the Social Security office will not take the information that these parents already have based on those functions. They have to evaluate the child themselves.
So no, Social Security is going to look at so they want any information
Okay.
that's relevant to the child's disability.
Okay.
So yes, so any medical records, school records,
Yep.
they want to look at all of those things. But what happens is they have to look at your child in these areas, and
Yep.
Social Security actually breaks down the age groups for children. So it might be like 0 to 3 years old,
Yep.
3 to 6. So they break down the age groups and they set certain expectations for functioning in each of those domains. So, I mean, they've got a really kind of detailed way of how they assess where they feel a child should be at a particular age, and how they should function in each of those areas in each of those areas.
And are they looking every time you move to a different age bracket?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
A lot of evaluations there.
So yes, they have to, if during the course of the process you
Yeah.
change from one age category to the next, yes, they have to look at that as well. And they are comparing your child to other children same age that do not have disabilities.
Okay.
Okay. So the expectations that are set forth are for children that do not have disabilities, and they're trying to see how much of an impact the condition has on your child.
Okay.
And then they classify the impact.
Oh,
So not only do you have these 6 domains of functioning, they will say, does the child have no limitation in this area? Is it a less than marked limitation in the area? Is it a marked limitation in the area? Is it an extreme limitation in the area? So they go through this analysis. And so let me give you an example. If your child is 10 years old and the condition for which led to the application is autism, right? So you have a 10-year-old who's autistic. What they're going to do is they're going to look at the medical records. They're going to look at the school records, and any other records that you have to help them to figure out in each of those domains, how does the autism affect your child?
even though they're not the ones spending the time with the child.
Correct. And so what they will do is they will look at also, when there's an IEP, there always references to standardized tests that have been done.
Yep.
So they will look at the standardized tests to see how many deviations from the mean your child is. And that helps them to figure out, is there no limitation? Is it, less than marked, or extreme? So they'll look at all these things and they go through each of the domains one by one to set forth what the limitation is in that area. Okay. Now, part of Social Security's analysis involves in-house doctors, and I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but Social Security has physicians and they have psychologists on staff, and it's their job to read. They read all the medical records, and then they're the ones that give their opinions about these domains and how your child is impacted in each of those domains. The in-house physicians and psychologists will never talk to you or your child. This is strictly an opinion based off of what they have read. Okay. Now, as part of the process, Social Security can decide to send your child out for a psychological evaluation if there are mental health or psychological conditions involved, or to send your child out for a physical examination if there are physical conditions involved. If they decide to send your child out, it is going to be, typically it's a one-time evaluation.
Okay.
And they choose the professional that they send your child to. So
do they pay for it?
They do pay for it.
Okay.
So they have their roster of professionals that they use, and they will select based off of the need. Let's say your child has autism, they're going to need a psychological evaluation. They will look for a psychologist in your area that they can send your child to. They will make the appointment, they will pay the psychologist, and your job as a parent is to take your child.
Okay. They're not coming to, because we talk about this when we talk about how, when applying for waiver, that be comfortable with people coming into your home. Do they ever do that? Okay. They don't ever send. Okay.
They will never come into your home.
Okay.
Because of COVID, they have expanded from requiring solely in person to sometimes they will do
telehealth. Yep. Yes. That changed so much with COVID.
Yes. But that's it. They are not going to come to your home.
Okay.
So this psychologist that does the evaluation has to prepare a report and has to go through those domains of functioning and give their opinions as to the limitations.
Okay.
Okay. And that's what results in a decision for a child as to whether they meet the requirements for disability.
But because we had talked about before, and I think we'll talk about this when we talk about adults too, your income level is still a factor in all of this, right?
So your income level is going to determine if you even get that far. So let's say you file your application when you're applying for SSI for yourself as an adult or for your child, there is a page that goes through cars, bank accounts, stocks, and they want you to tell them what you have and how much. So if I make $65,000 a year and I'm applying for SSI for my child, there will not be a medical evaluation.
Because you'll get
You're going to get a technical denial. They're going to say, you make too much money, your child is not eligible for SSI.
Is it take home pay?
It is gross.
It is gross. Okay.
It's gross. Mm-hmm.
Of course.
So I know. It's gross. So you will never make it that far. If you don't meet the financial requirements, you will get a technical denial. And one of the things that I want families to know, because a lot of times people get confused with the technical denial. They think that the medical evidence was reviewed. It was not.
So it's all about their income.
It does not mean that your child cannot meet the requirements for disability. It means they can't meet it right now because of whatever financial, whatever financial situation you're in now. You make too much money or the child has too much money to be eligible.
And it doesn't mean that they can't get it as an adult if they are not making that money.
Exactly.
Okay.
So a lot of parents will think, well, I applied when she was 13, we got denied. So, I didn't apply again until 10 years later when somebody told me to apply. No, as soon as they turn 18, if they don't have, as long as they don't have the assets, then you should apply at that point in time.
So make sure if you want your child to receive Social Security once they're over the age of 18 and you have that income level that they cannot qualify as a child, that they don't have a ton of assets when they're 18. So get the stable account. It's stable, right? It's not able, it's stable.
Well, it depends on where you are.
Yeah, but get one of those accounts set up is when your child is very little. There's no age requirement on that, and that can be helpful once they hit 18.
Yes. So take the steps necessary, whether that's setting up a special needs trust if there are assets for the child.
Yep.
Or, look at your state and the ABLE account and get that set up so that there won't be any financial barriers to SSI for your child.
And have conversations with your family. You don't want like Aunt Jean out in Oklahoma to be all surprised she left her child. Because I mean, people wouldn't know. I mean, they wouldn't know that, especially if they're not, directly interacting with your family all the time.
Grandparents are a big source of income that, sometimes families just forget to let grandparents know, hey, your will, there need to be some modifications made here. So instead of money going directly to Timmy, it needs to go into Timmy's special needs trust.
Yeah.
We have to protect Timmy and his SSI eligibility.
And you could have that older generation that might not understand that as much too, and be like, well, no, we don't want to do that to little Timmy. And so just have those conversations. Okay, so let's talk about qualifying as an adult.
Okay. So as an adult, completely different set of rules. You are not being compared to other adults of the same age. That goes out the window. That's
okay.
For children. As an adult, Social Security is interested in first making sure that you are not engaged in substantial gainful activity. And substantial gainful activity always has a monetary value associated with it.
Okay.
This year, $1,470 per month. If you make more than $1,470 gross per month, you are engaging in substantial gainful activity.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if you're working part-time or full-time. So if you're making too much money, technical denial. You do not qualify for disability benefits. They have not looked at the medical. They just know you make too much money. So if you're not making too much money, they want to then make sure that you have, here goes this word again, or these words, a medically determinable impairment. So do you have a condition that causes more than, a minimal impact on your ability to function?
Right.
Yes. Otherwise, you wouldn't be applying. Then they look to see if your condition is so severe that it meets a listing. So the listings are basically what Social Security does is they organize the listings into body systems. So there's like the respiratory system, the cardiovascular system, etc. And they lay out specific requirements. And if if the medical evidence shows that you meet these requirements, you meet a listing and you should be approved for Social Security disability like now, very quickly without having to go through this long drawn out process.
Mm-hmm.
Most people that get disability benefits do not meet listings because the rules are just so stringent for listings that most people don't meet them.
Okay.
So we can move past that. Let's say you don't meet a listing, you're like most people. Then they look to see if you've worked in the past, do your conditions prevent you from doing the jobs that you've done in the past? Or do they prevent you from doing any other jobs? Now, there are age requirements for adult disability benefits as well, or age categories, I should say. So there are really three that matter. One is 18 to 49.
Okay.
You are a younger individual. And the rules for disability are more strict for younger individuals. It's just harder to get approved if you are under the age of 50.
Okay.
50 to 54 is the next category, and you are approaching advanced age. And if you are approaching advanced age, the rules are a little bit more relaxed than they are if you're a younger individual. So it's a little bit easier to get approved, 50 to 54. And then the last age category of significance is 55 plus. And 55, you are of advanced age, and the rules are even more relaxed at 55 plus. So basically, as you get closer to retirement age, it is easier to get approved for disability. Now, if you are a younger individual, the rules are the same in that we have to prove you are not able to work full-time in any job because of your conditions. Doesn't matter how much that job pays, doesn't matter if you like that job.
Or you have a job, like a job coach, all of that.
So job coaches are actually really important
Okay.
because when Social Security is trying to figure out if somebody can work full-time, it is at a competitive level. So by competitive level, that means without accommodations. So without any extra support or help. An employer cannot be required to accommodate you, to provide you with specific assistance to be able to perform your job. So Social Security is looking at, can you do the job like somebody that's hired off the street without having any support?
And we talk about this so much when we are talking about qualifying for waiver services. When you are talking to Social Security officer, whoever it is, if you are having to prompt your child verbally, that counts as helping them. So, like, if your child can bag the groceries at the grocery store, but they have to be told, okay, well, open the bag or get it. Yes, they can do it, but you're having to verbally prompt them. So you always want to take into consideration if you or no one else was there, what would the situation be?
Absolutely. So an employer, a supervisor, a manager, a coworker, they are not expected to provide assistance. You are supposed to be able to go in there, know exactly what you need to do, and to be able to do that job independently.
What if families want their child to work? I mean, you have a lot of people in the disability community who work.
Absolutely.
And what do you tell those families?
Well, and they should.
Yeah.
So remember, the key to disability is, can you engage in substantial gainful activity? And so there are many people that receive disability benefits that work part-time, that might bag groceries, but they're not engaging in substantial gainful activity. So,
Because they're not making that.
they're not making enough. They're generally not working very many hours.
Okay, that's what I'm doing my math. I'm doing the calculator on it right now. Oh yeah, so if you work 20 hours a week at $15 an hour, you're making under that threshold.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, although the threshold sounds low, typically you have to be paid a lot more money to work part-time and get over that threshold.
Does that threshold change as minimum wage changes?
So it changes from year to year, but remember, minimum wage varies from state to state.
Mm-hmm.
So, in Washington state, it may be $15 an hour where it's $7.75 in Georgia.
Yeah.
But the same 20 hours could make you ineligible for disability because you are making over SGA if you live somewhere where you're paid more, or certain companies pay more for their employees.
That's tough.
Yes, it creates quite the predicament. There are companies that are very good with working with individuals with disabilities, that have programs set up for them, and they
Yeah,
pay them
Publix.
really well.
Publix.
They pay them well.
Right.
But yes, your benefits could be in jeopardy, even though you might only be working 15 or 20 hours a week, but because they are paying you $20 an hour, as a participant in this program, yes, your benefits could be in jeopardy.
Oh my gosh,
So
can you
those things that
imagine
happen
a
well.
parent? He would love to work here, but you're going to have to pay less.
It creates a bit of a predicament. Now, one of the other things that you can also show, though, if someone is working and they're above SGA, you can also, if an employer is supportive, they can show that this person is being paid a bit gratuitously, right? So I wouldn't normally pay this individual $20 an hour to bag groceries, but I am supporting individuals with disability. So I'm going to pay this individual $20 an hour. They've got a job coach, so they've got all these supports in place. So there are ways to prove that the value of the services that the individual is performing is actually below SGA, but you've got to have good documentation and support to be able to prove that.
So, do you recommend to families who, let's talk in this instance, let's talk about adults, are getting Social Security and working, probably consult like you for your services to make sure that you don't, because it probably only takes one. What do they give warnings? Hey, you got too much.
So the way that it will work is first, I should say that Social Security, they have programs. One of them is called the Ticket to Work program, where you can consult with them, and they will, try to help you as it relates to employment related issues once you're on disability. Because of course, you don't want your benefits to be, in jeopardy just because you're able to work some.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not able to work full time on a competitive basis. So there are programs. The Ticket to Work program is one that will go over the rules with you. We'll make sure that you understand what you need to do to be able to continue to qualify for benefits. My general rule of thumb is, working really helps with productivity, with feeling
Right.
good about yourself. You should absolutely encourage your child to work. You just need to be aware of what the rules are as it relates to wages, and you just need to be aware of the rules. But you should absolutely encourage your child to work, and make sure that you keep up. If they are receiving benefits, make sure that you're reporting what they're making to Social Security so it doesn't cause any problems down the road.
Does Voc Rehab help with this?
In terms of getting the job and keeping the
Well,
job.
if they're helping with the job part and you are on Social Security, are they helping you navigate that
No, I mean,
piece?
I
No.
think that's really outside the scope of what
Yeah.
they were supposed to do. The Ticket to Work program would really be what I would recommend,
Okay.
because that's specifically what they're there for, is to try to help people to be employed, and to maintain their disability status.
Do you feel like it's important for employers to be educated on this?
Yes, very. Especially employers that are more supportive of the disability community. There are a lot, we're fortunate here in Georgia, in Metro Atlanta. There are a lot of fantastic employers that really support the disability community. But
Mhm.
it is important that, if you have programs that are tailored to the disability community, that what the rules are to make
Yep.
sure that their status is not jeopardized.
Yeah. We always try to provide as much education around that as possible because it's not just the parents and the caregivers and stuff like that. It's important to educate anybody who is interacting with members of the disability community. I mean, you're a part of this community as well, so educate yourself. So if you are a parent watching this, send this video to your child's employer
Absolutely.
for them
Absolutely.
to
Because
take a look.
that's important. And their feedback can really be important as well. Over the years that I've been doing this, I've had um, some really good employers, job coaches that can explain things to Social Security and kind of help them to understand, hey, here are the supports. This is the support that Timothy needs. This is what we have to do for him on a daily basis in order to help him to be successful in this environment. Um, so that can be really important as well.
Yeah.
I know that there are some employers who will, with their program, um, one employer in particular has a program where they have the individuals in the program to perform maybe one component of the job, right? So the employees that are not a part of the program have to do, components 1 through 10. But if you're in this particular program, then you do component 1 every day, all
Yep.
day while you're here. That's an accommodation. And so when Social Security sees, hey, Timmy works for this employer, they need to understand that Timmy is working for this employer in an accommodated position, not in the position that would be available to just anyone else in the community, and that they are supporting Timmy in these ways, in this position.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that the individuals should know on qualifying?
Um, yes. So Social Security, in terms of evidence, it's not like you see on TV, with the courtroom TV shows where you have to have the custodian of records come in and say, this is the official log. They take any kind of evidence. So if Timmy has, emails from supervisors saying, hey, we're really concerned about Timmy's performance. We're trying
Yeah.
to help him with A, B, and C. That's evidence. Anything that you have from the employer, from your job coach, from your school, from the community-based learning instructor, any of those things can be used as evidence.
A
Email,
therapist, probably. A lot of people.
therapists,
Yep.
any record from any professional can be used and should be used as evidence, including letters. If they want to write letters explaining services, do that and submit that to Social Security so they get a better idea of the support that Timmy receives.
They are making you do all the paperwork, throw it right back at them.
That's right, because what you don't want, and I think what people don't realize about Social Security is that on their end, they are going to fill in the blanks and make their own assumptions. If you don't provide them with specific information detailing the limitations, they're going to make assumptions about it. And the assumptions are not going to be favorable to you
Yeah.
or to your child. So the more information that you provide them, the fewer assumptions that they're able to make because they've got the actual information in front of them.
Yeah. you'd rather give them more information than less.
Yes.
Probably helps the process go a little quicker as well.
Absolutely.
So, all right. And speaking of process, we're going to talk about the process of applying next. So we've gone through what is disability, Social Security, qualifying for children and adults. So make sure to come back here and check out the process on applying, and we will see you guys next time.